This video is the last in our series of how to build this traditional dovetail box. In the previous videos, we went through the process of selecting our stock, preparing our stock, laying out our dovetails, and cutting them by hand. Now in this video, I'll show you how to glue up your box. You can download a cut list for this video on my website, AmericanArtisan.com, and there's a link in the description below. You'll notice in front of me I have two boxes. In that download, you'll see that there's two cut lists. One for artisans with a fully prepared shop. To get a really nice look on your box, you're going to mill down your tail boards to a 1/2 inch and mill your pin boards to 3/4. This will make the dovetailing process easier. You'll also let your bottom into a dado that will route with a plunge router. And we'll also need to bevel the underside of our bottom. For those of you who don't have a fully equipped shop, you can still make this project. You'll follow the second cut list on the download. You'll buy a 1x4x6 pine at your local home improvement store and proceed with the dovetailing instructions the same as the other box. The only difference is that we'll put our bottom in afterwards. Instead of setting it in a dado, we'll rest it on some cleats made from square dowel stock that you'll purchase at your home improvement store. And we'll just cut down a piece of 1/4 inch plywood to fit inside, and we'll install it afterwards. So let me go through the process of showing you how to make this dado and how to bevel the underside of the box, and then we'll glue up both styles of boxes. So I need to make a dado to receive the bottom, and it's very important where that lands. I've laid it out in pen here so you can see it on the camera. The underside of the dado is 7/16 up from the bottom of the box. That's important because if I make it too low, it'll show on my lower half pin. So I need the underside there, and then I'm making a 1/4 inch wide dado, a 1/4 inch deep. I've set up my plunge router. I'm using a plunge router because I need to stop the dado before it exits the end of the board. If I go all the way through, it'll show on the end grain of my box. That'll be unsightly. I've set it up for a 1/4 inch deep cut. If you're wondering how to set the depth on your plunge router, you can watch this video here. I've made a clear base just so you can see what I'm doing better. If you're doing this at home, you can either use a commercially made fence for your router, or you can use a piece of plywood. We're going to go ahead and make our cut. So there we have it, a 1/4 inch wide, 1/4 inch deep dado that'll receive our beveled bottom. Now let me show you how to bevel the bottom. So now that I've routed the dado to receive my bottom, I'm going to bevel the underside of my bottom so that it fits in the dado. The dado is a 1/4 inch wide, but my bottom is a 1/2 inch thick. I've drawn out along the sides of the board and the back side of the board where I want my bevel to land. And then I'm going to use my number 4 smoothing plane to knock that down. I'm going to start on my end grain and then do my sides. Reason being that as I plane this side, it'll tear out a little bit. That tear out will get cleaned up when I plane the sides. When I think I have it, I'll check my fit. It should slide in easily and be able to move from side to side. I'll proceed and do the other 3 sides before gluing my box together. So I have all my parts ready to assemble my traditional dovetail box with the dado and the beveled bottom. I like to lay out my parts around the bottom in order. I also make sure that I have a set of clamping cauls ready. If you'd like to make yourself a set, you can click the link in the description below to see the video. I also have my glue on hand, a glue spreader, and a sacrificial block for when I'm tapping things together. I like to start by installing the bottom into the dado on the pin boards first. They might need a little tap. It should go in easily. I'll make sure that my corners still line up. And now I'll set my box on its side and start applying my glue to the pins. Try not to get any on the panel. I'll spread it around with my glue spreader on the shoulder and the sides of the pins. I also like to get some on the back of the pins. Anywhere that the joint's making contact, we want glue. Now I'll take my corresponding tailboard and apply glue on the tails. Try to keep it away from that dado. We want our bottom to be able to expand and contract, and the glue can seize it up and cause a crack. Get some in between. And now we'll install our tailboard onto our pin board. Give it a light tap to get started. Make sure everything lines up. Once you have it started and it feels like it's going down, you want to take a sacrificial block and put it over your tailboard. If I have one tight pin, it could cause a crack that wouldn't happen otherwise. By putting a block over it, it keeps the pressure even. Make sure that both sides go down evenly. Once I have it so the pins are level with the face of the tailboard, I'll put my block behind the pins, right behind the marking gauge scribe, give it an extra tap. Now I'm ready to install the opposite tailboard. I'll rotate the box. Make sure that your bottom stays in the dado. And now I'll apply glue to those pins. And I'll spread it around with my glue spreader. Getting all the surfaces that I got last time. Every surface that makes contact. Now I'll apply glue to my tails. Spread that around. And now I'll install my second tailboard. Do a couple taps to get it started, and then we'll use our sacrificial block and bring both sides down evenly. Once I have it closed pretty well, I'll be ready to apply clamping pressure. And that's when I'll have my clamping cauls ready to go on my tailboards. I'm always clamping tailboard to tailboard. The wedge shape of the dovetail keeps the pin boards closed. And the clamping pressure closes the tailboard. I want to center my clamp over my caul. Get it so the clamp just starts, and then apply the opposite clamp. Yeah, now I've got good pressure. I'm going to keep clamping until my dovetail closes along the shoulder. You see that glue ooze out? That's what we want. That looks good. I'll take a tape measure and measure my diagonals to make sure they're equal and the box is square, and then I'll allow the glue to dry. So if you're making the box based on buying wood from the home improvement store, you'll follow the same process to glue your box up. You just won't have to worry about your bottom until after it's glued together. I've glued this box together, and while I was at the home improvement store getting the 1x4 pine for my box, I also picked up some square dowel stock. It's right next to the round dowels. I'm going to use that to make a cleat to support the bottom. I've cut these to fit. I'm going to apply some glue to one side. I'll have that side against the inside of the box. If you have a loose fit, you can secure it with a nail until the glue dries. I'll do my 2 long sides first. And then my 2 short sides. Once I have them in, everything even with the bottom, I'll rotate the box over, make sure everything's still even. I'll put some glue on the face of those cleats. And then drop my pre-cut bottom in. And just press it down tight against the cleats. I'll let this sit for about 45 minutes till the glue dries, and then my bottom is installed. So now that my glue's dry, all I need to do is trim my pins down, and I'll be ready to sand and apply finish. Remember, our pins protrude past the face of our tailboard, and we need to trim them flush. The best way to do that is with a crank neck chisel. This is one of my favorite tools. It allows me to press the chisel flat on the board and just slowly pare the pin flush. Some people will say to use a block plane for this, but my concern is that often along the end here, it tears out if you use a block plane. It's a lot easier to keep that nice and clean when we use a nice sharp chisel. This is a narrow enough project that you could just use a nice sharp flat chisel using the same technique. We're always pressing from the outside in. So when I do this outer pin, I'll work from the left to the right. But when I do the opposite outer pin, I'm working from the right to the left, always pushing the fibers into the box. I'll do this to all 4 corners, and then my box will be ready for a good sanding and finish. So after I trimmed all my dovetails flush, I took the time to sand it and add a few coats of clear shellac. I find that clear shellac gives a good luster that lets the dovetails shine. Thanks for watching this video. Subscribe for more woodworking videos.